Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It's Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. I am Andrew Hanson, ready to break down a three-game NBA DFS slate. And because it's December 7th, that means happy birthday to Larry Bird. Wouldn't you know it? The Celtics are playing the Lakers tonight. I wouldn't put it past Adam Silver to have done this intentionally. And he probably would have scheduled the second matchup between these two teams on Magic's birthday, but he was born in August. So somewhere probably in Indiana, Larry's going to be watching this one, rooting for his Celtics. But that's game three. We've got to work towards that. It's also my niece Rose's birthday, so happy birthday to her. And the goal tonight is to build some DFS winners for all of us on Draftkings and Fanduel and Yahoo, and then celebrate with some cake. So let's get after it here. Three games. And starting at 7:30, we've got the TNT doubleheader with Brooklyn and Dallas. Then we've got the 8:30 game, New York, San Antonio, and then Celtics and Lakers, hopefully the best for last with that clash of rivals. But interesting here that 5 of the 6 teams are involved in a back-to-back tonight. Only the Lakers have an island game. And then we have all 3 games between 212.5 and 217.5 for totals. And all 3 games are close spreads, either 2.5 or 3.5. So we're going to have to battle here. No game really sticking out as a big stack game or where we want to put all of our roster spots or most of them. So let's go through with a balanced look at it and see what our favorite plays are. All right, Brooklyn and Dallas kicking off that doubleheader. Brooklyn favored here on the road by 3.5, 215.5 total. Brooklyn on the front end, a pretty easy one though, because they're going to play in Dallas tonight and then go to Houston. And Dallas on the front end as well. They play at home, and then they'll go to Memphis tomorrow. Brooklyn is one of the teams we like here because they've got a good pace. They're 11th. Their offense is strong. They're 8th. Defense, again, better this year. They're 6th. Dallas, on the other hand, not as attractive. They're slow this year. Their offense is below average. Defensively, they're 17th. But in my opinion, they're the worst defense on this slate. So I do like the Brooklyn side here a little bit better. They're also healthier than Dallas. We'll get to that in a minute. But on the Brooklyn side here, the first revenge game of the night. There will be another one later that we'll get to. But James Johnson back in town, a little bit under the radar. He did sit out the last game, and Millsap went off. But I think this is more of a James Johnson night. So let's get with a potential value play to start. He's a bench player, but 3,200 on DraftKings I like. And I dug into his stats last year when he was in Dallas. He did perform better and shoot better at home. So I think he'll feel comfortable on this floor. And he's one guy I'd like here. A 3-game slate, you've got to get a couple value plays like that if you want to get one of these or some of these stars, because there are a bunch on this slate. With the starters here for Brooklyn, Hardin and Durant, obviously the first 2 guys we want to look at, both solid. I like them both. They're both expensive. I lean Hardin just a little bit because of the position, the way my build is working out. But I do like Durant as well. And looking at the minutes here, I feel fine about the Brooklyn minutes. The last time they were involved in a back-to-back, Hardin played 36 and then 40. Durant played 38 minutes both nights. Patty Mills played 34 minutes both nights. He's been starting. Bembry more in the middle, 23 and 27. And then LaMarcus Aldridge, 33 and 34. So assuming this one is close, I think they'll get full run. Tomorrow should obviously be an easier night for them against Houston. So look for their starters to get good minutes, even though it's a front end. Mills, is certainly playable. When he's shooting it well, he can pay off the high 4K price tag. Bembry is interesting to me, though. He's cheaper than Mills, gets you some exposure to this game. And in the last 5 games, 3 of those 5, he's given you 6x return on DraftKings and FanDuel. So a nice glue guy for the roster, gets a little bit of everything done. Aldridge, he's playable for me. Not my favorite, though, just because he's in that mid-tier, and my builds so far are a little bit more high-end and low-end. So I don't know if I'll get there. Like I said, James Johnson coming off the bench, my favorite option there. Can you play Johnson and Durant? Yes, you can. A lot of these games recently where Johnson has been, he's taken over for Blake Griffin in that bench role. There have been most of these games he's played about 12 to 15 minutes on the court with Durant at the same time. So he can get his 25 minutes while Durant gets his 38, no problem. Keep that in mind. We always want to look at the overall roster construction and which guys do you want to play together, which guys do you not want to play together. So I wanted to point that out because some of these builds I'm coming up with 3 or 4 Brooklyn guys, and I wanted to make sure that the correlation made sense. Now, Bruce Brown, we know he can smash the fantasy numbers because he will do a little bit of everything. He's cheap on DraftKings, only 3,500. Wouldn't shock me if he gets it done at that price. Probably won't get to Cam Thomas or Millsap. All right, the Dallas side. I'm recording this just after lunch, and we just got injury upgrades to Luka and Tim Hardaway Jr. They're now probable. Luka dealing with the ankle, THJ dealing with the knee, and Porzingis dealing with the knee. He's probable. Now, THJ hasn't missed any games. Luka missed 1. Porzingis has missed 2. If they're all back tonight, I think the starters will be Luka, Bullock, DFS, Porzingis, and Powell. Dallas has been mixing and matching a little bit at the center position, but Willie Cauley-Stein is out again with a personal issue. So with those starters, Luka, he's in play for me. I do prefer the Brooklyn studs a little bit more just because they've been playing and they're at full health, but I do like the way Luka was trending, getting more towards those triple doubles that we've become accustomed to. Bullock is a pass for me. DFS, one of those guys who stepped up in that last game with Luka out, and some of these secondaries guys got more shots and got more accomplished, but less attractive with Luka and Porzingis back on the court. Bench guys, Brunson always in play, especially low 5K range, especially on a 3-game slate. If I play him, I'm not expecting 6x plus. He's one guy where if he gives me 25 fantasy points, I'd be happy as a last guy in. And then THJ, got to mention, in that last game with no Luka, he scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. So we know he can light it up, and he's in that mid 5K range on both sites. GPP option for me tonight. Kleba, he's been getting some minutes, a little bit inconsistent. Does he start? Does he come off the bench? If Porzingis starts and he's coming off the bench, I probably won't go there. Sterling Brown is questionable, by the way. He's been in that rotation. And then Boban's been getting 10 or 11 minutes a lot of these nights. But he is very risky with Porzingis likely back in the lineup. All right, let's go to game 2. It's the 8:30 game, New York at San Antonio. Front end for New York. They're going to go to Indiana tomorrow. And second night for San Antonio. They lost last night at Phoenix 108-104. On the New York side here, the Knicks are favored by 3.5, 212.5 total. So it's the lowest on the board. And New York, as always, with Thibodeau, a little bit slow. They are, above average offensively and still below average defensively. But they're 17th. They're getting there. And the rotation here, we're looking at Burks, of course, as the new starting point guard. Fournier, RJ Barrett back in the lineup. Remember, he missed, but then he came back and played 24 minutes against Denver. He'll be out there. Randall and Mitchell Robinson, of course. Randall's my favorite here. He had a lull there. His last 3 games, he's been very strong, scoring between 24 and 30 points after 2 games where he didn't even hit double figures. So that was strange, but he's back in form now, and he's less expensive than a lot of these other stars tonight. 9,100 DraftKings, 87 FanDuel. He can be your power forward or your center. I do like that flexibility tonight. Not thrilled with the power forward and center positions. So he is a big target for me. RJ Barrett, 5,300 on both sites. He's interesting to me because hasn't been shooting that well, hasn't been playing full minutes, but I'm hoping he turns the corner tonight after those 24 minutes, gets closer to 30, and he's playable for me as another last one or two guys in the lineup. Fournier has had some strong games here these last couple, but GPP only for me. Burks, after that strong start as a starter, he's tailed off a little bit. We've got Derrick Rose coming off the bench and playing his minutes. So it makes it tougher to get to Burks, who's in the mid 6K range. Quickly, I'm not going to go there with Rose back and doing his thing. Obi Toppin, I feel the need to mention him, although I'm not thrilled about it. It's just that on DraftKings, he's 3,100. And more often than not lately, he's actually been hitting 6X at that number. But for a guy that doesn't shoot well from the perimeter, it always is uncomfortable to go there. And there are some other 3K guys I like here. But I do like to mention the guys who I think are capable of hitting 6X. Or, most likely to hit 6X. Noel, I'm probably not going to go there off the bench. I probably won't go with Mitchell Robinson either, although he is cheap. If he strings together a few blocks, watch out. But Pirtle is tough on the other side, so I would prefer him in this matchup. All right, let's talk about San Antonio, shall we? Since it is a back-to-back, and I was surprised. First of all, San Antonio has only had one back-to-back all season, and if you go back and look in the second game of that back-to-back, the starters played 29 to 35 minutes. So something you can actually live with. I feel like in recent years, we've seen back-to-backs where the starters play 24 to 26 minutes, and it's a complete mess. But that's what happened the first time around this year. We'll see about tonight after that close loss with Phoenix, where the starters played 26 to 34 minutes, and they all had between 9 and 12 field goal attempts. So that's the other thing, of course, with Pop and the Spurs and the back-to-back is even if you get solid minutes, you might get a very even distribution of shots. So you don't really love the upside for a lot of these guys. But DeJounte Murray has been smashing it, no doubt about it. He's had a lot of strong games. I feel like when I play him this year, it's the once or twice that I have, he didn't do it. So I'm a little skittish with him, especially mid to high 9K range. I lean towards going up to somebody like Hardin or Tatum in the last game. So Murray probably GPP only for me. Derek White GPP only, and DraftKings only at 62. He's priced way up on FanDuel at 7,800. With the front court here, Keldon Johnson, you can fit him in. Price wise, he's nice, but he's been Mr. 4X lately, so I'm not fired up about him. Pirtle is maybe the best guy on this starting group for consistency, and he's a fair price around 6,000 on both sites, so he's definitely in play for me. With the San Antonio bench, Lonnie Walker, probably my favorite. We've got Devin Vassell questionable with the quad. He sat out last night. Assuming he's out, Lonnie Walker has gotten more minutes. Playable for me, and probably the most attractive target for me on that bench. Bryn Forbes has lit it up a little bit. If he hits his threes, he'll certainly pay off the 3,100. Thaddeus Young not getting many minutes. And then I have to mention Joshua Primo, who is the primo example of a Spurs GPP option. Last night, in 18 minutes, he had 7 stocks, and he's minimum price on both sites. But with Pop, it wouldn't surprise me if he plays 22 minutes tonight or 0. So tread lightly with any of these Spurs for sure, and keep an eye on the news up until lock. We certainly will as we transition to game number 3. If you want to grab our lineups tonight, I will have those ready about right around 7 Eastern, a little bit after. But join this afternoon if you can, and we'll get you into the Discord well ahead of time where we give out the lineups. DFSCoachTalk.com to get your membership. And whichever one you pick, you're going to have access to all of our sports. So you'll get our football lineups on all the slates. Been doing quite well. Another solid night last night in that unique game with Buffalo and New England where Mr. Belichick decided to hand it off all night and only attempt 3 passes. But fun and entertaining either way and profitable. So let's keep it going there. DFSCoachTalk.com to sign up. Any questions? You can find us on Twitter at DFSCoachTalk, and I am at Language Olympic. All right, Game 3. It's the Celtics and Lakers on TNT, 10 o'clock Eastern, second game of that doubleheader. And it's a 217.5 total. Lakers favored by 2.5. As I mentioned, they're on an island game. They've been sitting around and dealing with the press. LeBron backing up Coach Vogel and saying it's on the players here. They're 12-12, certainly underperforming. They're motivated to get on the right track here. Celtics not much better at 13-11 on a lengthy West Coast trip here. And the big news for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown questionable. He's been out with the hamstring issue. And interesting that these two teams played earlier in the season in Boston. The Celtics won that one easily, 130-108. And Jaylen Brown didn't play in that one either. And the two guys who stepped up, Dennis Schroeder and Jason Tatum. And I'm looking at those guys again tonight. And everybody's looking at Schroeder as our thumbnail. Omaha Joe was smart to put him on there as the likely fill-in if Jaylen Brown is out again, and the other revenge game guy here as Schroeder is back in town. Celtics, by the way, are going to be at the Staples Center here for the next 2 nights. They're going to play the Clippers tomorrow. But I do like Schroeder here if Jaylen Brown is out again. He's been playing really well here in the last couple games. 37 field goal attempts over the last 2, shooting over 50%, got over 30 points against Portland after a strong game against Utah. And he was great when they played the last time, 21-6-6. And at 6,400 on DraftKings and 5,200 on FanDuel, he'll be locked in for me as a core play. Tatum, on the other hand, much more expensive here, mid 9K range, but he feasted on the Lakers, 37, 11, and 12. There's just a lot more usage to go around when Jaylen Brown is out. So you could look there. He's been very strong the last few games. Marcus Smart is in play for me around 6K, but he'd probably be my third choice out of those 3. Al Horford's also going to be back in the lineup after sitting out the last one. That should move Grant Williams back to the bench. Horford's a little pricey for me tonight. I'm not going to go to Robert Williams III either. He's not getting over 24 minutes. We've got Enes Freedom coming off the bench. He stepped up in his revenge game against Portland, but he'll take a dip down in this one with Al Horford back. Josh Richardson, the other Celtic bench player who's been most consistently in the rotation, but not a target for me tonight. Then you've got Nesmith and Langford fighting for minutes after that. But I'm going to be focused on the Celtics starting lineup here tonight, primarily with Schroeder and Tatum. All right, on the Lakers side here, the big 3 out there and healthy. Yeah, a couple of them have probable tags, but we're not going to mention those. We expect them all to be out there. And the other starters recently, Talen Horton-Tucker and Dwight Howard. The big shake-up. Jordan out of the rotation, Dwight Howard in. Played 21 minutes in the last game against the Clippers. He's 3,800 on DraftKings, which I think is playable. 5,200 on FanDuel, probably a little bit steep for me. Out of the big 3 here, I'm going to lean LeBron. AD, probably a close second. I'm not going to play Westbrook with all 3 of those guys playing on this slate with the other studs. He's taking a step back when it's the 3 of them. So LeBron and AD, that's where I think you want to look if you want to pay up for one of the Lakers. Taylor Horton Tucker at 5,000. He's a GPP option. He can pay that off. But Monk is the guy off the bench who's really stepped up here in these last couple, shooting it well, shooting it often, mixing in some other stats. 4,400 on DraftKings is a nice price for him. Melo is currently questionable with a flu. It's reported as a non-COVID illness, so we'll keep an eye on that. Ellington's been getting minutes as well, but not as attractive to me as Monk. So that's it. That's the 3-game slate. I hope that helps you get ready. And I'm going to be following that news this afternoon to finalize the lineups. We give out full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo for the members to plug in and play, cash lineups and GPP lineups. And then the DraftKings Coaches Clipboard tonight will have highlighted core plays and then other options to fill out your roster. So that's it. I appreciate you all tuning in. Please do hit that thumbs up on the way out, and tune back in tomorrow for our next NBA DFS podcast, and tune in throughout the rest of the week for our NFL podcast. Of course, we'll preview the Thursday night game and then the main slate and then the primetime games, the showdown matchups Sunday and Monday night. So tune in to those, and good luck on this Tuesday night with your lineups. On behalf of the entire DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hanson. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.